Part 1. The person nobody knows yet. You were not born under stage lights. You were born in a tiny room where the fans sounded louder than your dreams. You had no stylist, no manager, no bodyguard, just an old mirror and a few facial expressions practiced before bed. You stood in front of the mirror, holding a shampoo bottle like a microphone, singing as if 50,000 people were screaming your name below. In reality, it was just your mom knocking on the door, asking why you were still awake, reminding you school started early tomorrow. You said, "I'm practicing." Your mom stayed silent for a few seconds, then asked the most painful question possible. "Practicing? What exactly?" You were not famous yet, but in your head, you already had world tours, fans crying in arenas, and a very emotional interview clip. You imagined a host asking, "What helped you succeed?" And you stared dramatically into the distance, saying, "I just never gave up." It sounded powerful, even though you had literally given up after 3 push-ups because the floor was cold and motivation was weak. You started uploading videos online, crooked camera angles, yellow lighting, audio quality that sounded haunted. You sang with your whole heart, but the algorithm looked at you like someone standing at the wrong apartment door. Your first video got 17 views, 10 were you, 4 were your mother, and the last 3 felt suspiciously accidental. You refreshed the page constantly, as if staring long enough would embarrass the number into growing. It didn't grow, it just sat there, cold and judgmental, like a teacher listening to your excuse for missing homework. You told yourself you didn't care about views, but you did. You cared so much that every notification sounded like destiny calling. Your friend said, "That's cool, keep going," then scrolled away faster than people avoiding eye contact with street advertisers. You learned your first lesson early. People can support you emotionally without actually watching your content. You started doubting yourself, not in a poetic way, more like standing in your room whispering, "Am I just delusional?" The answer was maybe, but every huge dream begins with a small amount of delusion wearing decent clothes. You kept filming, deleting, filming again, because somewhere in your mind existed another version of yourself waiting to be proven real. That version looked cooler than you, more confident than you, and definitely did not use broken wired earphones missing one side. You didn't realize you were building a career. You thought you were just posting random videos while pretending not to care too much. But hope is strange. It's tiny like a matchstick, yet powerful enough to burn your sleep schedule alive. You stayed up editing every sentence, every smile, every expression, until your face looked like an image still buffering the next morning. Your family started worrying, not aggressively, just through soft questions that somehow landed like bricks. Are you planning to do this seriously? Can people actually make money from this? Is fame really that easy? You didn't know how to answer because deep down, you were asking yourself the exact same questions. You wanted to say, "I'm going to become a global star," but instead you quietly said, "I just want to try a little longer." A little longer became your life philosophy. One more video, one more month, one more sleepless night. You started learning how to talk to the camera. At first it felt awkward, like apologizing to your phone for bothering it. You smiled too much, then not enough, then stared too intensely, until you looked like someone recording a police confession. But slowly, you realized the camera wasn't the scary part. The scary part was the silence after posting. Silence became your first audience. It didn't clap, didn't insult you. It just sat there making you uncomfortable. Then one day, one of your videos got shared unexpectedly. Not millions, just a few hundred views, but to you it felt like an earthquake. You ran around your room, called your friends, your cousins, even people who never asked, just yelling, "It's happening." It wasn't even that big, but when you've lived inside zero for so long, even a little feels like fireworks. You read every comment carefully. One person said you had potential. Another said your voice sounded unique. Someone asked what makeup you used. You weren't wearing makeup. That was just bathroom lighting mixed with emotional exhaustion. But you were happy. Childish, irrational happiness. The kind that makes you want to hug the world even when the world barely knows you exist. Then the next day, everything returned to normal. The new video flopped. The account stopped growing. The miracle apparently took a coffee break. You realize viral moments are not doors. Sometimes they're just doorbells rung by strangers who immediately run away. You became more serious, creating upload schedules, studying lighting, editing faster, learning how to hook viewers within 3 seconds. You learn modern people are extremely busy. They can watch 8 hours of short videos daily, yet still have no time for you. You had to fight for attention, not by screaming the loudest, but by making people recognize themselves inside your story. You talked about failure, poverty, insecurity, nights where you felt so small, even breathing felt embarrassing. Unexpectedly, people listened because everyone carries a tiny room in their memory where they once dreamed too big. You stopped simply performing. You started representing a feeling many people didn't know how to describe. The feeling of wanting to escape your current life, while secretly fearing you might not be talented enough to leave it. The more honest you became, the more people stayed, but honesty is dangerous because sharing yourself leaves fewer places to hide. One video hit 10,000 views, then 50,000, then 100,000, and suddenly your screen looked alive. You felt excited, but terrified too, because now if you failed, more people would witness it publicly. Before, mistakes disappeared quietly. Now, people screenshot them, analyze them, and call it your career downfall era. You didn't even have a career yet, but social media had already prepared a funeral for it. Strangers messaged you saying you inspired them, saying they wanted your life, and honestly, you weren't sure whether to feel honored or concerned. You were still eating instant noodles at midnight, still borrowing gas money, still re-wearing old clothes because laundry could wait. Yet somehow, in other people's eyes, you had already become a version of success. This became the first strange moment of fame. People believed you had arrived somewhere while you were still searching for the map. You started getting your first real fans, people remembering your name, waiting for uploads, defending you online like distant relatives. You loved them sincerely because they supported you before you had anything except shaky confidence and tired eyes. But slowly, you also felt pressure because every supporter felt like another hand gently resting on your shoulders. One hand feels comforting, 1,000 hands feel heavy, 1,000,000 hands can become an entire building. You didn't understand that yet. Right now, you just felt lucky, seen, heard, recognized. You started dreaming bigger, not just views anymore, but stages, contracts, sponsorships, giant billboard downtown. You thought fame was the final reward, like touching the golden trophy in a video game while victory music played dramatically. But fame is not a trophy. It's a creature fed by attention, and it becomes hungry very quickly. It wants you posting more, looking better, being funnier, more authentic, while somehow remaining perfectly flawless too. You tried balancing everything, relatable but mysterious, humble but luxurious, casual but still somehow looking brand friendly. You became someone performing acrobatics on a tightrope, holding dreams in one hand and a phone in the other while comments waited below. And strangely enough, you still wanted to continue. Not because you were stupid, although replying to comments at 3 in the morning certainly looked suspicious sometimes. You continued because for the first time in your life, something inside you was finally receiving a response from the world. You spoke, and people listened. You sang, and someone cried. You told stories, and someone whispered, "Me too." That sentence is more dangerous than any compliment because it makes you believe loneliness can transform into light. You were still not a global star, no private jets, no sunglasses indoors, no manager saying, "Stop reading comments." You were still just a person inside a small room, except now the room had windows and something outside was calling your name. You walked toward the window, staring at the world opening slowly in front of you, bright, loud, beautiful, and slightly terrifying. You didn't know what waited ahead. You only knew returning to your old life suddenly felt scarier than moving forward. Because once you hear applause, even tiny applause, silence never feels the same again. And that becomes the first real cost of fame. Not money, not scandals, not losing freedom. But from this moment on, You no longer know whether you want to be loved for who you really are or for the version currently becoming famous. And even without fully understanding why, you still press upload on the next video. Because the cycle has already started, and the spotlight, even from very far away, noticed you before you were ready. Part 2. The first viral moment. One morning, you wake up and your phone feels hot, like it just ran a marathon straight through hell overnight. Notifications keep exploding non-stop, vibrating so hard your cheap wooden desk sounds like it's having an actual panic attack. At first you think your account got hacked, or your mom accidentally clicked another air fryer discount advertisement again late at night. But no, one of your videos is actually going viral in a way you always thought only happened to other people. You open the app with slightly shaking hands, your heart beating fast like you just escaped a terrible life decision somehow. 100,000 views, then 200,000, then 300,000. The numbers keep climbing completely out of control. You stare at the screen forever, the kind of stare where your brain still refuses to believe any of this is real. It feels like winning the lottery, except your bank account still contains $50 and several unpaid bills waiting patiently. You scroll down into the comments, and for the first time, strangers talk about you like you actually matter to them. People start tagging their friends, quoting your lines, using your audio to explain stories happening inside their own lives. For the first time ever, the internet is no longer a place where you beg strangers to notice your existence anymore. The internet starts searching for you instead, and that feeling is far more dangerous than you imagined before all this happened. You brush your teeth while still holding your phone, terrified of missing the first historical moment of your entire life somehow. Toothpaste falls onto your shirt. You don't even care, because now you're famous in a free trial version kind of way. You refresh the page constantly, like a laboratory rat discovering dopamine exists in real life instead of psychology textbooks. Your followers grow so quickly. The numbers almost start feeling alive, staring directly back at you every single day online. Every extra 1,000 followers somehow makes you feel slightly more important than the insecure version from yesterday afternoon. That's the moment fame becomes dangerous, because the internet doesn't give you money first. It gives you validation before everything else. And validation is far more addictive than money, especially for someone who spent years feeling completely invisible to everybody around them. You slowly change your lifestyle, sleeping less, scrolling more, checking analytics like a fortune teller, reading terrifying future predictions nightly. You know exactly which hours bring views, which thumbnails keep attention, and which facial expressions feed the algorithm best online. It sounds incredibly professional until you realize you just wasted 40 minutes choosing between two identical facial expressions alone. You start thinking in content format. Eating lunch becomes this shot looks cinematic. Walking outside becomes this lighting feels perfect. Feeling sad suddenly means this could become an emotional video. Feeling happy means this story will definitely boost engagement tonight. You stop fully living inside real moments, because part of your brain constantly watches your life from somewhere outside yourself. Like you are simultaneously the main character and the exhausted director, adjusting emotional lighting behind the scenes every single day. People start recognizing you outside now. Not often, just random moments buying coffee or instant noodles late at night downtown. Someone stares at you awkwardly for several seconds, then quietly asks, "Wait, aren't you that person from TikTok, actually?" You pretend to stay calm, while your inner thoughts explode with fireworks, cinematic music, and Marvel movie credits simultaneously everywhere. You casually answer, "Oh, it's nothing really," even though you replay that exact moment inside your head for 3 straight weeks. You begin understanding something extremely dangerous. Fame does not need to become massive before it changes the person inside you completely. It only needs to become large enough for you to start viewing yourself through strangers' eyes every single day online. You buy better clothes, cut your hair more often, practice poses like a low-budget celebrity trying to survive internet culture gracefully. You learn which angles flatter your face best, And which ones make you resemble an international criminal investigation photo somehow. Everything slowly becomes calculated now. You don't upload when you feel inspired, only when prime engagement hours officially begin online. You don't reply to comments because you're bored. You reply because algorithms reward creators who engage with communities consistently online. You start speaking like social media captions, shorter sentences, stronger punchlines, sometimes wishing real life had an edit button too. A few small brands finally message you, acting extremely polite while offering free product collaborations through suspiciously cheerful emails online. Translated into internet language, it basically means, please advertise for free. And sadly, you immediately agree without hesitation whatsoever. Not because of money, but because a real company finally sees you as something with actual marketing value for the first time. You film your first sponsor video using a desk lamp and a dangerously strong belief in your future success online somehow. The final result looks more like a pyramid scheme recruitment ad than authentic lifestyle content, but you still feel incredibly proud anyway. You send the link to your whole family, and for the first time your mother slowly changes her attitude toward internet videos. She still doesn't completely understand everything, but at least she stops calling all your content that weird online thing anymore. Your father still looks confused though, seriously asking, does internet fame come with health insurance or retirement benefits at least? You honestly don't know how to answer, because even the internet itself cannot emotionally protect its own unstable creators daily anymore. You start meeting other creators now. Everybody acts extremely friendly, the kind of friendliness that feels slightly suspicious underneath everything. Everyone smiles, everyone supports each other, everyone says we all grow together in polished networking voices during collaborations and events. Then 5 minutes later, they secretly check whether your videos are performing better than theirs behind carefully smiling faces online. You learn another important lesson. The internet stays positive and supportive until algorithms decide only one person deserves attention today. You do your first collaboration, laughing together like lifelong best friends despite barely remembering each other's names before filming started yesterday. The video trends instantly. People comment their chemistry feels incredible, while you secretly want to laugh reading all those reactions. Because 2 hours before filming, both of you stood awkwardly inside an elevator like complete strangers avoiding eye contact completely. But that's the industry now. The internet doesn't sell pure reality anymore. It sells emotions that merely resemble reality closely enough. And sometimes those two things become so far apart that even you struggle separating them clearly inside your own mind anymore. Your followers continue exploding upward 1 million, then 2 million, numbers so huge they stop feeling connected to real humans entirely. What does 1 million people even mean? A city, a stadium, or a crowd powerful enough to destroy you overnight online? But you aren't thinking that deeply yet. You only feel relieved that you finally escaped years of feeling invisible to everyone. Every live stream now attracts tens of thousands of people, simply watching you exist in real time for several emotional hours nightly. That feeling resembles power in strange ways, while also resembling loneliness in ways you never emotionally prepared yourself for before. Because after the live stream ends, the room becomes completely silent again, exactly like before any of this internet fame existed publicly. You sit alone staring at a black screen, while phantom comments continue echoing loudly inside your exhausted brain without stopping completely. That becomes the first time you truly understand. Attention is always loud and exciting, but its ending feels horrifyingly silent afterward. You slowly become dependent on the internet. Not casual addiction either, more like sleepless nights whenever videos perform badly online suddenly. Lose followers slightly, and you question your self-worth completely. Receive fewer comments, and you feel erased from existence emotionally overnight somehow. Your value now becomes attached to growth charts entirely. Rising numbers create happiness. Falling numbers make you feel absolutely worthless instantly. One successful viral video makes life feel meaningful again. One massive failure makes you feel personally broken beyond repair emotionally overnight. Your emotional stability now depends entirely on numbers generated by strangers scrolling phones at 2 o'clock every lonely morning online. Nobody explains this part before fame arrives. Internet popularity does not make you more confident like everybody constantly imagines publicly anymore. It only makes you depend more deeply on external validation, while fearing irrelevance far more than you ever feared before success. You start reading negative comments constantly, laughing at first, until somehow remembering criticism longer than every beautiful compliment combined together afterward. 100 people call you amazing. One person calls you fake, and your brain obsessively focuses on that single comment instead. Every night, you quietly ask yourself, am I actually becoming fake? And eventually the question refuses leaving your mind anymore. You edit your speech, your expressions, your personality, until even you begin feeling strangely disconnected from yourself outside internet spaces. Then one day, you genuinely stop knowing how much your online version still resembles the real person behind closed doors anymore. But the internet loves that version, and fame always rewards what audiences enjoy most, not necessarily what feels most authentic emotionally. You finally begin earning real money, not as much as people assume, but enough to make your dreams feel physically reachable now. The internet loves pretending every creator becomes rich instantly, while most survive mainly through caffeine, stress, and unstable sponsorship contracts monthly. But for you, the first money earned from content feels magical somehow, like proof you weren't completely delusional after all these years. You buy gifts for your mother, repay small debts, then replace the old phone dying faster than modern online relationships emotionally. You stare at your bank account forever, quietly thinking, maybe I really can do this successfully after all, somehow, someday. That becomes fame's second dangerous moment. The exact moment you start believing the internet might love you forever permanently now. But the internet never loves anyone forever. It only loves whatever feels newest, and eventually, you will stop feeling new too. Right now, you still don't understand that reality. Right now, you stand beneath your first spotlight, smiling beautifully toward the future, while somewhere behind you, the shadow of fame quietly grows larger every single day without you even noticing it happening yet. Part 3. The public person. You slowly realize fame does not feel like a door opening. It feels like a room that no longer locks from inside anymore. Your phone never truly becomes silent now. Even when the battery sits at 2% and your spirit somehow feels even lower. Your first manager appears in your life, wearing a black hoodie, holding a laptop like he's running a classified military operation. He says things like, you need to optimize your personal image, then warns your engagement numbers are dropping dangerously this month already. You nod like you completely understand everything, while secretly wondering whether dinner should be instant noodles or discounted convenience store rice tonight. You finally get a real schedule now. No more uploading based on emotions alone. Everything suddenly needs strategic timing behind it. The thing that once felt like pure passion now comes with deadlines, KPIs, emails, and terrifying spreadsheets filled with colorful numbers everywhere. You miss the old days when all you needed was a phone and emotion strong enough to film videos at 2 a.m. Now uploading one single clip requires approval from managers, editors, brands, and someone called an image energy consultant somehow professionally employed. You honestly have no idea what that person actually does, but everybody nods seriously whenever their strange title gets mentioned publicly. You begin attending industry events, flashing cameras everywhere, deafening music, beautiful people dressed like survivors of high society battle royales tonight. Everyone hugs each other, laughs loudly, calls each other family, despite quietly unfollowing each other just last week online emotionally. You develop a brand new skill, smiling while completely exhausted, a modern form of emotional cardio for internet celebrities everywhere now. You start photographing your life more than actually living it. Every meal needs pictures. Every outing needs videos before anything else happens. Even your coffee has to become cold sometimes, because the internet apparently needs to consume it before you physically can anymore. You post a natural photo online, despite taking 72 versions and editing colors across 4 separate apps for nearly an hour. Then another 40 minutes disappear writing captions, carefully pretending the entire thing happened spontaneously without any effort whatsoever behind the scenes. The internet absolutely loves authenticity, as long as that authenticity is prepared carefully like a fully funded advertising campaign behind curtains. You begin attracting haters now. Small comments at first like "so fake," "such terrible acting," or "nobody even knows you." You pretend not to care publicly, then reread those exact comments 15 times alone later that same night before sleeping. Part of you slowly understands something uncomfortable. When people hate you, it means you're finally living inside their minds permanently now. That is not exactly victory, but the internet often treats hate like some strange digital medal earned through public visibility nowadays somehow. People begin secretly photographing you outside, while eating, walking, or simply standing in line like a normal, hungry human being daily. One day, someone posts a picture of you sitting alone inside a restaurant, captioned simply, "Why do they look so sad?" You stare at that picture forever, not because it hurts emotionally, but because you genuinely do not remember feeling sad that day. You only remember feeling tired, and your bowl of pho getting cold unusually fast while you stared at your phone endlessly. But the internet never needs complete truth. It only needs one frame before inventing the rest of the story independently afterward online. The first rumors appear suddenly. Maybe you're dating someone, secretly hating someone, or feuding because story interactions disappeared recently online. You laugh reading those rumors initially, then minutes later wonder whether people truly believe you are actually that kind of person. That's what fame does incredibly well. It slowly teaches you to doubt your own image through strangers' constantly observing eyes online. You start controlling everything more carefully now. Captions must stay safe. Stories need perfect moods. Tweets must remain funny yet professional. You no longer speak naturally anymore because you're managing a brand now, and unfortunately that brand happens to be yourself publicly. And that brand finally holds real financial value. Enough for companies to start offering numbers far larger than before consistently now. Numbers so large they make you stare silently at your banking app, feeling like you accidentally entered a science fiction movie somehow. You buy better things, live in nicer places, eat better food, yet strangely feel more anxious than when you were broke. Back then you feared nobody knowing who you were. Now you fear people eventually stopping caring about you completely one ordinary day. Different fears entirely. Yet somehow both destroy sleep exactly the same way across countless long nights filled with restless overthinking endlessly. You begin working non-stop, filming videos, interviews, live streams, photo shoots, meetings, strategy sessions, and endless conversations every single exhausting week constantly. Some days you attend meetings just to prepare emotionally and creatively for another meeting happening inside freezing studios tomorrow morning again. One afternoon you stare at your overloaded schedule, wondering whether you became famous or became a full-time employee of internet culture. You begin missing the days when nobody knew your name, not because life felt better, but because disappearing remained possible back then. Years ago, silence meant nothing. Now disappearing online for 2 days immediately creates theories spreading across social media, everywhere instantly afterward. People assume you're depressed, secretly canceled, or preparing mysterious new music hidden behind calculated silence and emotional symbolism online suddenly. The internet hates empty spaces. It always fills silence with imaginary stories invented collectively by strangers refreshing timelines every single night. You begin attracting obsessive fans now. The type remembering when you go online, favorite foods, and quotes from 2 years ago. One person sends a 3,000-word message, explaining why both of you are spiritually connected forever through destiny and emotional energy, apparently. You finish reading it feeling strangely touched, while simultaneously considering changing your home address immediately for long-term psychological safety reasons afterward. You slowly understand something terrifying. When millions watch you every day, someone eventually believes they partially own your existence personally somehow. You try remaining kind anyway, replying to fans, taking pictures, signing autographs, smiling constantly despite your emotional battery nearly completely dying inside. Some days exhaustion becomes so overwhelming. Even your face no longer has enough social battery remaining to continue functioning properly publicly anymore. In one single moment, refusing a photo suddenly becomes internet evidence that you betrayed humanity itself through unforgivable arrogance and disrespect, apparently. You learn an unwritten law about fame. Once people grow accustomed to accessing you, they resent every boundary you create afterward. You slowly lose your sense of privacy. Not Hollywood paparazzi chaos exactly, just constant paranoia someone might secretly record everything around you. Every sentence feels dangerous now. Every public space feels monitored, like invisible microphones remain permanently switched on around your entire life daily. You begin editing your real personality too, speaking less, revealing less, emotionally expressing less than the person you once naturally were before. Because the internet remembers every version of you forever, from old jokes to tweets written during sleepless teenage nights years ago. Anything can return unexpectedly anytime, like ghosts from your past learning how to use Wi-Fi and advanced search functions efficiently online. You begin feeling exhausted constantly, not physically exhausted exactly, but exhausted from always needing to appear visible for everybody watching online daily. Some days you desperately want to switch your phone off, wear old clothes, and disappear somewhere nobody recognizes your face anymore publicly. You just want to exist anonymously again, no analytics, no views, no pressure to remain interesting every second of your waking life. Then suddenly your phone vibrates again. Your manager messages simply, "Today's post still isn't uploaded yet, by the way." And immediately you return to the character the internet loves most, even when that version feels easier than your real self. That becomes the most terrifying moment so far. Not hate comments, not anti-fans, but preferring your online self over reality eventually. You slowly realize something deeply dangerous. Fame does not destroy people instantly like dramatic movies always try portraying emotionally on screen. It simply forces you to perform for so long that eventually you completely forget who existed before the spotlight first appeared. Part 4. The Peak of Fame. You're no longer just internet famous anymore. The internet starts calling you something far more dangerous now. A phenomenon. Your name appears everywhere. On billboards, advertisements, and giant LED screens across cities that once made you feel incredibly invisible. Years ago, you walked past those same places, wearing cheap headphones and insecurities much larger than your actual bank account balance. The first time seeing your face 10 meters tall inside a shopping mall, you freeze completely like reality suddenly disconnected from your brain. Part of you wants to cry emotionally, while the other part just thinks, "Wait, my face is actually that huge now." You start going on tour. No more tiny coffee shops or low stages anymore. Now it's massive crowds and blinding lights everywhere. Thousands of people stand below, screaming, bass shaking your chest, fans lining up since afternoon just to see you briefly in person. You walk onto the stage, and the screaming explodes like an emotional tsunami crashing directly into your already trembling nervous system completely. That exact moment helps you understand why famous people rarely return comfortably to normal life ever again after tasting this feeling once. Not because of money, but because human brains struggle forgetting what it feels like hearing thousands scream your name simultaneously together. You stand beneath the spotlight, sweat running down your neck, Music vibrating through your body like electricity inside your veins tonight. And for those few short minutes, you genuinely feel immortal in the most dangerously addictive way imaginable for a human being. That becomes the most terrifying thing fame ever creates, the illusion that somehow you matter more than ordinary people outside your spotlight. After the show, you return to luxurious hotel rooms with giant windows overlooking entire glowing cities beneath the midnight skyline beautifully. Everything looks perfect: expensive wine, golden lighting, soft beds, and million-dollar views straight out of glamorous Hollywood movie posters somehow. But strangely, that room still feels as silent as the tiny bedroom you lived in when you were 16 years old. You begin understanding something painfully funny. Loneliness never disappears after success. It simply relocates into far more expensive environments instead somehow. And its new home usually comes with better views, luxury furniture, and a minibar charging ridiculous prices every single lonely night. You begin flying constantly now. Tokyo, Seoul, Paris, New York, and London. Waking up inside different time zones every single week. Some mornings you open your eyes inside another hotel room, needing several seconds just to remember which country you're currently inside physically. Sometimes you pull open the curtains, staring outside at unfamiliar cities, suddenly realizing every place begins looking strangely identical eventually, somehow. Airports, black cars, hotels, backstage rooms, flashing lights, screaming crowds. Then airports all over again, forever in endless repetition continuously. Fame slowly transforms your life into an extremely glamorous loop, one that pays incredibly well while quietly draining your soul underneath everything. You begin meeting unbelievably famous people now, people who previously existed only through your old cracked phone screen years ago, before success. Now, they hug your shoulders, tag you online, invite you to dinner, and speak like you've known each other forever somehow. But the strange thing is, the more famous people you meet, the more exhausted every single one of them appears privately. Some laugh loudly in front of cameras, then sit completely motionless afterward like someone unplugged their entire personality from existence instantly. Some look absolutely flawless online, but in real life their eyes resemble people who haven't slept properly for several exhausting years straight. Some become famous enough for the entire world knowing their names, yet still doubt whether anybody loves the real them anymore. You slowly understand. Fame resembles a casino. Outsiders only notice jackpots, while insiders notice sleepless people destroying themselves quietly every night. You finally have your own team now: stylists, makeup artists, PR managers, bodyguards, assistants, and lawyers permanently looking incredibly stressed everywhere. Some days you enter rooms, realizing more people now work around you than genuine close friends still regularly texting you personally anymore. You no longer freely wear whatever you want. Every outfit now requires concepts, branding strategies, and carefully planned internet image direction constantly. Your clothes now need to match branding, fit the mood board, feel luxurious, yet still remain relatable enough for online audiences everywhere. Years ago, you dressed based on personal taste. Now you dress because this quarter's image needs luxury while remaining emotionally approachable online. You honestly do not fully understand what that sentence means, but everyone nods seriously, so eventually you nod along to anyway. You begin doing non-stop interviews now. People constantly asking about success, pressure, and how you maintain positivity through overwhelming public attention daily. Your answers sound incredibly wise, sometimes so wise that even you wish the calm version speaking existed in real life too. Because honestly, some nights you stare at hotel ceilings until 5 in the morning, still feeling painfully empty inside despite everything achieved. The internet assumes famous people live inside constant dopamine forever, but excessive dopamine eventually starts sounding exactly like background noise everywhere eventually. You slowly lose emotional reactions toward things once making you deeply happy, 1 million views now feels like ordinary notifications arriving routinely. 10 million streams? Okay. Standing ovations lasting 5 minutes? Nice. Your brain becomes dangerously accustomed to massive levels of admiration constantly. And that's when the real danger finally begins, because once everything becomes huge, you need even bigger things just to feel alive. You start working harder, faster, more obsessively, like resting for several days might somehow destroy your entire empire overnight, permanently forever. You no longer truly rest anymore. There are only slightly less busy days and completely overwhelming days destroying your energy entirely nonstop. Your phone screen never stops glowing. Emails, contracts, filming schedules, and urgent messages arriving constantly at 3 o'clock every single morning. Everything becomes labeled extremely urgent, like the entire world might explode immediately if you somehow sleep 8 normal hours peacefully tonight. You start forgetting what day it is, which month it is, and when you last ate without posting stories online afterward. One night before performing, you stare into a backstage mirror with perfect makeup, perfect hair, and perfect lighting surrounding your reflection entirely. Everything looks technically correct. Yet after staring long enough, your face suddenly resembles a character more than your actual self anymore. That moment sends chills through your entire body, like the person inside the mirror understands the internet better than reality itself now. You begin missing your older self, the version singing inside tiny bedrooms using cracked phones and surviving mostly on fragile, hopeful emotions daily. The version who stayed happy for entire weeks, just because one stranger left a genuinely kind comment online at 2 a.m. Now millions of people love you publicly, yet that exact feeling somehow becomes harder to experience again than you ever expected before. You start dating people, or at least trying to date, quickly realizing genuine relationships become nearly impossible for famous people eventually somehow. Because you never fully know whether someone loves the real you or simply enjoys proximity to celebrity and public attention surrounding fame. Some people love you deeply until cameras appear and suddenly everything starts resembling carefully managed public image campaigns online together instead. Some people claim they understand you until the internet begins hating you and comment sections transform into full-scale digital warfare overnight suddenly. Fame turns love into something extremely difficult to trust because nearly every emotion now arrives packaged alongside lights and online content constantly. You begin suffering insomnia more frequently, not entirely because of work, but because you finally possess everything you once desperately wanted before. And the terrifying part is you still don't feel as happy as your younger, invisible self imagined years earlier before success arrived. If money, fame, and attention still cannot fill the emptiness, then maybe the problem never involved those things from the beginning. That becomes the scariest thought imaginable, because it forces you realizing fame is not humanity's final answer against loneliness after all somehow. You begin watching older artists disappear from the internet. Once they existed everywhere. Now, almost nobody even mentions their names anymore publicly. The internet moves unbelievably fast, fast enough that yesterday's phenomenon becomes today's forgotten, that era, without warning whatsoever, eventually online somehow. You begin fearing that deeply, not because of becoming poor again, but because of becoming forgotten after being constantly seen everywhere before. Because once millions of people called your name every day, the silence afterwards sounds more like spiritual death than anything else imaginable. And so, you continue appearing publicly, continue smiling, continue posting content, continue becoming the version audiences most desperately want from you. Even while deep inside your mind, a tiny voice quietly begins asking, if I disappeared completely someday, would anyone remember the real me? And for the first time since becoming famous, you are no longer certain you actually want to know that answer anymore. Part 5. When the internet starts turning away. One morning, you wake up and realize your new video flopped harder than a high school reunion secretly selling life insurance online. No scandal, no drama, nobody even truly hates you. The internet simply became bored of you without warning at all suddenly. Views drop heavily. Followers freeze completely. Comments slowly disappear like the entire world, quietly changing channels away from your life forever now. You refresh analytics non-stop, like a doctor trying desperately saving patients while the machines themselves already stopped making sounds entirely tonight. Your manager texts quickly, probably just the algorithm, "Don't worry," then disappears like doctors reading extremely terrible medical results silently afterward somehow. Algorithm is the industry's favorite word whenever nobody wants admitting audiences are slowly getting tired of watching you anymore lately online. You try staying calm, continuing uploads, continuing smiles, and continuing performances like absolutely nothing dangerous is actually happening inside your mind right now. But deep inside your head, a tiny warning alarm has already started flashing red continuously for several exhausting days without stopping anymore. Part of you keeps whispering, "It's just a phase," trying sounding optimistic like late-night, healing podcasts people cry themselves asleep listening to alone. The other part keeps opening TikTok repeatedly, checking which younger creator might soon replace your position across the internet completely already now. And the terrifying thing is they're younger than you, faster than you, and newer than you in every possible imaginable way today. Algorithms love the feeling of newness far more than audience loyalty, far more brutally than most people emotionally understand outside reality today. You slowly notice the internet changing its attitude. Years ago, everything you posted made people laugh naturally without effort or hesitation anywhere online. Now the exact same jokes receive comments like cringe, overrated, and fame got into their head completely already underneath everything posted lately. The internet never changes entirely overnight. It simply grows colder slowly like relationships. Nobody still possesses enough emotional energy rescuing anymore eventually. You begin working even harder now. More content, more trends, and much more fake energy than ever before in your exhausted life. You stay awake until 4 in the morning brainstorming, like thinking long enough might somehow make the internet love you again, eventually somehow. But the harder you try, the more everything begins smelling painfully desperate, and the internet always detects desperation immediately without mercy online. Audiences instinctively recognize desperation. Honestly, that's probably the strongest survival instinct the internet has ever evolved naturally throughout human history itself. You begin watching creators from your generation slowly disappear, like old posters peeling away for forgotten walls after several lonely rainy seasons pass. Some start selling beauty products online. Some launch healing podcasts. Some disappear entirely like they never existed inside anybody's timeline before somehow. Years ago, people called them the golden generation. Now the internet simply asks, wait, whatever happened to that person recently anyway? That becomes modern society's scariest graveyard. Not being hated publicly, but being forgotten completely like your existence never mattered before somehow online. You start fearing your phone every morning because opening apps now feels like entering meetings evaluating your worth as a human being daily. One flopped video ruins your entire mood. One low-performing post suddenly makes you question every career decision you've made since becoming famous publicly. You begin asking yourself nightly, am I actually washed up already? And the question refuses leaving your exhausted mind anymore after that moment. It follows you into bathrooms, follows your sleep, and even appears while you're smiling normally in front of other people publicly outside. You start viewing rising creators with strangely complicated emotions, wanting to support them sincerely while simultaneously feeling slightly threatened emotionally inside yourself too. Part of you understands something painful. Every new person stepping into the spotlight usually means someone else behind them slowly fading away instead. That's the secret nobody openly discusses inside this industry. Even though everyone understands internet attention rarely shines brightly enough for everybody simultaneously forever. The internet constantly pretends everyone celebrates others succeeding, but real-world spotlights always come with extremely limited space underneath their harsh brightness anyway. You begin missing your first viral moment deeply. Back then, everything felt new, exciting, and emotionally real in incredibly innocent ways somehow still. Now, every upload feels like office workers submitting emotional KPIs for the entire internet's endless approval every single exhausting day, continuously, without rest. You begin changing your image completely, changing hairstyles, changing aesthetics, and even changing how you naturally speak online, publicly nowadays too. The internet reacts positively for several days, compliments you briefly, then immediately grows bored again like nobody genuinely cared deeply before anyway. That's when you finally understand fame's cruelest truth. Audiences don't actually care whether you remain happy forever or emotionally healthy at all. They simply want entertainment, and entertainment constantly requires newer things repeatedly appearing to survive inside the endless internet machine, forever online now. You begin feeling exhausted by the internet itself. Everything moves too fast, sounds too loud, and carries far too many opinions daily. 1 million people watching you means 1 million different versions of your personality now exist somewhere across the massive internet landscape permanently already. And the strangest part is none of those versions completely resemble the real person you actually are outside internet culture anymore today either. You begin posting less frequently, live streaming less frequently, and gradually appearing online much less often than audiences became accustomed to previously before. Immediately, the internet begins asking, "Are you okay? What happened?" And are they secretly having a breakdown right now, everywhere instantly? Nobody accepts famous people simply becoming tired emotionally. The internet always demands more dramatic explanations for ordinary human exhaustion, somehow, every single time. You are no longer fully human anymore. You have become content, and content is never allowed disappearing quietly for very long online publicly. You begin envying ordinary people deeply. People allowed feeling sad without explaining themselves to millions of strangers constantly watching every emotional movement online. People capable of eating meals without filming stories, then disappearing several weeks without rumors claiming they suffered complete emotional collapse publicly afterward online. Years ago, you believed fame represented total freedom completely. Now you understand it merely exchanges one prison for another more glamorous version instead. One night, you sit alone inside beautiful apartments overlooking glowing cities through enormous glass windows reflecting your exhausted face quietly back toward yourself. Your phone continues glowing nonstop. Work messages, emails, event invitations, and endless unread notifications vibrating repeatedly across the silent, luxurious room tonight constantly. But you feel so emotionally empty. The vibrating phone sounds like noises coming from somebody else's entirely different life outside your own existence. You reopen old videos from several years earlier, recorded using terrible phones with awful lighting and painfully distorted audio quality throughout everything captured then. But inside that older version's eyes exists something you genuinely cannot recognize anymore when staring into mirrors today, sadly enough at all now. Real happiness, without KPIs, without analytics, and without branding strategies, controlling every tiny emotional expression publicly visible online anymore whatsoever behind everything now. Just an incredibly lonely person, still holding absurdly powerful hope that something beautiful might eventually happen someday, somewhere in the distant future, somehow still. You stare at that old video for a very long time, then suddenly begin crying like somebody rediscovering lost pieces of themselves again. Not because your career is ending soon, but because for the first time you finally understand exactly what you've missed most lately. The person you miss most deeply. The person breaking your heart more than anyone else. is your pre-famous self from years earlier. Part 6. What remains after the lights? One day, you wake up and realize you no longer open analytics the second your eyes open every single morning anymore. That realization should have terrified you, but strangely, it makes your chest feel a little lighter for the first time. Not by much, just enough that after years you finally hear the fan in your room instead of phone notifications again. You begin staying quiet more often, not the mysterious offline for marketing type, but genuinely exhausted deep inside now. You want to slow down, breathe normally again, and stop performing for the internet every second of your existence anymore. The internet immediately starts making theories, because that's exactly what the internet does whenever famous people disappear slightly online. People say you fell off, burned out, plan to come back, or secretly got a third face surgery somewhere overseas recently. You read those comments and laughed softly, because the internet always needs drama, even when nothing actually happened at all. Years ago, you were terrified of people talking about you online. Now you mostly find the whole thing strangely funny instead. You start taking more walks. No vlogs, no live streams, and no healing journey stories uploaded for strangers to consume afterward anymore. You just walk. And for the first time in years, you see trees without thinking this would look amazing on reels. You sit in coffee shops without photographing your drink, adjusting the lighting, or writing captions pretending to understand life perfectly anymore. You simply sit there quietly. And strangely enough, that ordinary moment feels rarer than getting 1 million views back then somehow. You begin replaying songs you wrote before fame. Songs recorded with incredibly cheap microphones inside your tiny old bedroom years ago. The audio sounds distorted, the lyrics awkward, so awkward that hearing them now makes you laugh and almost cry together. But those songs still carry something your expensive $1 million productions later in life slowly stopped having anymore completely. Truth, no strategy, no algorithms, and nobody sitting in meetings deciding which section might trend on TikTok someday later. Just one human being trying honestly to express emotions before the world started paying money for those emotions afterward. You slowly understand something painful. Success itself never destroys art. Fear of losing success is what actually destroys it instead. You reconnect with a few old friends, people who knew you before fame, contracts, and before all those blinding lights existed. Before stylists, before branding, before every conversation suddenly carried the risk of leaking onto social media the next morning online. They still call you by your old nickname, still joke about stupid things from when you were 17 years old together. They still look at you like a normal person, not the internet version millions of strangers follow every single day online. For the first time in years, you realize you no longer need to perform in front of anyone around you anymore. That feeling becomes so unfamiliar, you almost forget how to react because you've spent years trying to stay entertaining constantly. You begin understanding another painful truth. Many people love the famous version of you more than the real person underneath everything. And what's even scarier, sometimes even you forget who that real person actually is outside the internet anymore now. You begin turning down contracts, game shows, and invitations promising to increase your public image exposure everywhere across the media world. Your manager looks at you like you're burning stacks of money directly inside the meeting room. And honestly, maybe you are. But for the first time in years, you no longer want every single part of your life turned into consumable content anymore. You start writing music again. No deadlines, no brands, and no marketing campaigns controlling every line you decide to write now. Just you alone inside a quiet room, sitting beside emotions you haven't dared facing directly for an extremely long time anymore. At first, it feels impossible. You sit there for hours, unable to write a single sentence that honestly moves your soul. Not because you lost talent, but because your brain became trained to ask, will this go viral? Instead of asking truthfully, does this actually feel real? The internet teaches people how to attract attention incredibly well, but secretly teaches them fearing honesty at the same time too. It takes you a very long time to relearn writing for yourself instead of writing for algorithms and audience retention percentages. Then one night, you finally write a song. Not a hit, not trendy, and definitely not considered good for the market. But after singing it once, you sit silently for several minutes before suddenly crying like someone finding themselves after years missing. Because for the first time in forever, you hear your real voice inside your music again one more beautiful time. Not the internet's voice, not the branding voice, and not the polished version adjusted carefully for public consumption outside anymore. Just you, the real human being, the same kid sitting inside a tiny room dreaming impossibly big dreams at 16 years old. Dreams much bigger than your confidence back then, yet somehow strong enough to carry you through complete chaos for years afterward. You finally understand the last thing fame never warns anyone before they step directly underneath all those blinding lights outside there. Fame itself was never the most dangerous thing. The dangerous part is forgetting how to exist without being constantly watched anymore. If you spend too long needing people's love, eventually you forget how living feels without attention surrounding you every single day. You look back across your entire journey, from the tiny room to virality, stages, and giant lights across the world, to all those sleepless nights staring at hotel ceilings at 5 in the morning, wondering whether you were still truly happy. Everything moved unbelievably fast. So fast your entire career sometimes feels like a dream edited far too aggressively by someone else. You once believed success was the finish line, then believed it was a prison. Now you finally understand something different completely. Fame is only a giant mirror, magnifying everything that already existed quietly inside your heart from the very beginning anyway. If emptiness already lived inside you, fame only makes that emptiness echo louder through enormous speakers inside massive empty rooms afterward. If fear lived inside you, fame hands that fear a microphone and millions of people listening live around the world daily. And if there's still honesty left somewhere inside, maybe art eventually finds its way back home again despite absolutely everything else. One evening, you walk onto another stage, no arenas, no fireworks, and no giant LED visuals exploding behind your silhouette anymore. Just a tiny stage, a few hundred people below, and warm yellow lights softly resting against your tired face tonight, quietly. You hold the microphone, stay silent several seconds, then begin singing the song written alone in your room last night softly. Nobody knows the song, nobody sings along, and nobody films TikTok trends during the performance happening quietly in front of them. But somewhere in the audience, a young girl cries softly while listening carefully to every lyric leaving your trembling voice tonight. You notice that girl crying, and suddenly everything returns like fame, algorithms, and the internet never existed in the first place. No fame, no algorithms, no analytics, only one human trying desperately to make another human feel less alone inside tonight. And for the first time in many years, you finally understand exactly why you started making music from the very beginning. Part 7. When you become a memory. One day, you realize there are kids who know every lyric of your songs, but have no idea what you looked like young. They remix your music on YouTube Shorts, then call you an old school legend, with terrifying levels of genuine respect online. You hear the words old school, and suddenly your knees hurt slightly like your body just downloaded a new age update overnight. The internet slowly begins treating you like collective nostalgia, no longer a trend, but something that once defined an entire era. That feeling is both an honor and a cold reminder that spotlight always keeps moving toward younger people standing ahead of you. You begin appearing less often, but whenever you return, the internet reacts like seeing an old friend after years apart again. People comment things like, "Bro, my childhood. This song brings back high school memories." Nobody captures that feeling anymore. You read those comments, then realize you are no longer just making music anymore. You're preserving memories for other people now. That's when artists slowly become feelings, instead of simply remaining ordinary human beings living regular lives outside the spotlight anymore. You start getting invited onto very different stages now. No more rising creator or upcoming artist introductions before performances anymore. Now you are a special guest, an inspirational artist, or a symbol representing an entire generation somehow. It sounds beautiful until you realize those titles usually appear right before the internet officially starts considering you part of the past already. You begin noticing younger artists rising unbelievably fast, much faster than you ever climbed during your own peak years before this. They understand the internet in ways you honestly can't keep up with anymore, from new memes to constantly changing online trends daily. Everything changes so fast. Sometimes it feels like you're watching the internet in slow motion while the whole world plays double speed. You try keeping up a few times, posting trends, using new slang, and dancing awkwardly to whatever song is currently exploding online. The result looks exactly like parents trying desperately to prove they're still cool at their teenager's birthday party in real life. The internet notices forced energy incredibly quickly, and the scariest part is this time it isn't completely wrong about you either. You slowly understand something painful. Every artist eventually reaches a moment where they no longer belong completely to the present anymore. Either you desperately fight to keep the spotlight forever, or learn becoming a beautiful memory living inside other people's hearts instead. You choose the second option, not because you're noble, but because you're simply exhausted from chasing the internet endlessly every day now. You start spending more time in real life, with family, friends, and dinners where nobody records YouTube shorts anymore after we're together. Conversations no longer need perfect punchlines or 30-second clips designed carefully to maximize audience retention across social media platforms anymore. You begin loving the feeling of nobody watching you anymore. Strange at first, but eventually more healing than loneliness honestly ever was. Like someone living beside airports for years, suddenly moving somewhere so quiet they can't even sleep the first several nights there. But gradually, that silence becomes comforting, like your mind finally unplugged itself from the internet's endless electrical current at last somehow. You start hearing younger artists mention your name during interviews, saying they grew up listening to your music throughout their childhood years. They say you inspired them to start creating art themselves, and hearing those words leaves you silent for a very long time. Because for the first time, you understand what it feels like watching your influence continue living inside somebody else's soul after you. That is the only real immortality art can ever truly touch. Not fame, not awards, and definitely not giant billboards downtown somewhere. It's the emotions you once created continuing quietly inside somebody's heart years after everything else already disappeared completely from public memory. You slowly stop fearing being forgotten. Not because the internet remembers forever, but because honestly, the internet forgets everybody eventually anyway. Finally, you understand the thing lasting longest was never fame itself, but the feeling you left inside people when they truly needed it. One evening, you drive past the giant billboard that carried your face for years above the crowded center of the city once. Now another younger artist stands there instead. Younger, prettier, and existing exactly where the internet currently wants all its attention focused daily. You stop at a red light, stare upward several seconds, then laugh softly without bitterness or jealousy remaining anywhere inside you anymore. Years ago, this exact moment would have terrified you completely. Now you simply think, it's their turn now. Not bitterness, not jealousy, just a quiet, adult sadness, like seeing somebody else move into the old room you once called home years earlier. You turn on one of your old songs while driving away, your voice sounding younger, more naive, and infinitely more hopeful somehow. Listening closely, you suddenly realize that younger version of yourself will always survive inside your music, no matter how much you changed later. That's the most beautiful thing art can do. Preserving old versions of ourselves long after real life loses the ability completely, forever. You once believed fame was the destination. Then you believed fame was a curse. Now you finally understand it was only one season inside a very long human life after all. A season that was bright, loud, beautiful, and also dangerously capable of making people forget who they really are beneath the lights for too long eventually. But in the end, every spotlight turns off eventually, every trend disappears, and every internet generation finds someone newer to adore afterward. The only thing truly remaining is the song somebody plays at 2 in the morning while their world quietly falls apart completely. And if your music ever helps someone feel even slightly less alone during one of those endless nights somewhere out there, then maybe you never truly disappeared from this world at all.